Hello, everyone, and welcome to our 2024 Look Back, 2025 Look Ahead. This is going to be an amazing event. And to get us started, I got the chance to sit down with John Rosenson, our Chief Operating Officer, to talk about everything that happened this year with Broadcom and VMware. Let's go to that.
Being in the information technology industry for as long as I've been, change is the operative word, and change we had in 2024. VMware moved to a subscription-based model. Effectively, they consolidated hundreds of SKUs into just a few options, including what they call VMware Cloud Foundation. For us, that meant a change in the metric that we're being charged for. So as a service provider, we have been billed by consumption of RAM, or VRAM in particular. And now we're being charged, as are every customer of VMware, using the same metric, the CPU core. So I think what we've heard from clients is that this is a big change for them. While Broadcom and VMware have positioned it as an enhancement to their service, customers, many of them, are seeing it as a price increase because they weren't previously taking advantage of the full stack of capabilities that VMware has to offer. As their enterprise license agreements expire, they're being mandated to create a new relationship with a subscription, which changes their whole relationship with the company. They had previously operated the company in somewhat of a siloed manner, and they've effectively eliminated those silos to bring all of the technology together so that it works as well as can be for clients that want to adopt the full stack. We basically re-architected our infrastructure and made adjustments to optimize the usage of cores. We've been able to strategically look at our fleet of VMware-based cloud platforms and mitigate excessive core usage, which allows us to continue to serve our clients at the most valued rate possible without providing them significant cost increases. And that includes opportunities to be able to control that resource usage and monitor it so that we can always make sure that we have the capacity that clients need. One of the things that we'll continue to see is this alignment towards the integration and the maximization of the full stack of software that they offer. They really, truly intend to create the best value and seamless experience for clients. And I think from our perspective, we expect them to continue, as they have started to do already, to introduce us to some of their clients that need help to adopt that full stack. Because, as you said before, companies like ours that live and breathe the infrastructure as a service and disaster recovery and managed services every day, we provide a lot of value to organizations that need those critical infrastructure components to run their business. Since we're living and breathing it all the time, we're going to be able to help them get that maximum value.
And I think that's a wonderful point to end on. John, I want to thank you for your time, and we'll send it back to the studio. And we're back. And with me today, I have Anthony Jackman, our Chief Innovation Officer. We're going to talk through what's happened with Nutanix this year. And Anthony, thanks for joining me today. This has been a big, long year with us at Nutanix. Can you kind of give us a recap of what Nutanix has rolled out this year and kind of where we see them through 2024?
Yeah, I think I'm going to start with talking about what we see that is similar between what VMware is doing now and what Nutanix has been doing for a while, which is a continued move towards a platform play. It's not just a hypervisor and it's not just storage. It's really a platform that is meant to be run in a client's data center, in our data center, in the hyperscale, and all the features that are needed for an enterprise cloud are now being included out of the box and integrated very well. And what we've really seen over the last year is Nutanix is really kind of honing that in, really dialing it in to create a great client experience. And that's really central to Nutanix. Everything they do is very focused on creating a great experience for the administrators that are using the system.
And with that, you have not just the infrastructure, but also that sort of networking and automation pieces that have long been individual components, and kind of talk through what Nutanix has worked on there with Flow and with their cloud management services.
Yeah, Flow's a great one to talk about because as a provider, that's very central to us. We need networking to be simple, standardized, scalable, easy to manage, and more importantly, to support many clients running on a single platform eventually, or at least a single physical platform. Flow is, think NSX from VMware. Flow is a very similar type of product where it is running overlay networks on top of the physical network infrastructure. And this really allows clients to easily self-serve as well as to build automation. So things are deployed consistently without an administrator configuring everything. And then they've also bundled in security is deep into the mix there, where you can apply micro segmentation down to the VM level based on whatever context is important to you. So you can simply apply tags to VMs and they can inherit policy, which is allowing systems administrators to dip their toe into the network administrator space to really drive efficiency.
And as part of all of this, enhanced, cloud and enterprise cloud, we've rolled out a few things this year to meet those opportunities, and kind of we have our private cloud and edge and DRaaS, but kind of talk through where we've seen clients kind of move towards that space.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'll talk about first what we did to enable this. We knew that we were going to see a lot of demand for Nutanix private cloud. These are clients coming to us and saying that they want choice. I think the question of, are hypervisors other than ESX or other than VMware, are they viable? And the answer is definitively yes. And our clients are now understanding that. That question's kind of out the door. So we really focused on driving efficiency in the platform, driving cost down as low as possible, and driving performance as high as possible so that every client has a great experience. And we don't really need to know much about their workload to guarantee them that they're going to see high performance. So we've got standardized node types. We maintain stock of these so that we can quickly build private clouds. We can quickly augment private clouds. So that's kind of the foundation of what we've done is developing this higher tier of service for AHV private clouds. But we've also focused a lot on disaster recovery as a service. Nutanix had a service that they called Zyleap that was disaster recovery truly as a service from Nutanix. And they've decided to sunset that product. They want to build software. They don't want to be a service provider. And we have partnered with them to create a landing zone for those Zyleap clients. And, that really plays into why we made the changes to private cloud we did, because we had to drive down the cost so that it would be cost effective for these clients to come over. And then we also did a few other things to drive the cost down further, which is the concept of what we call reserve nodes. Clients that they want guaranteed resources available to them if they have a disaster scenario. They don't want the possibility of not having resources, and we can give them nodes dedicated to them but they're not entered into service. They're sitting there waiting so that we are not, and the customer is not incurring licensing or service charges for those nodes unless they are actively in a disaster scenario.
And that's, I think, huge because it meets a lot of the challenges that people see with Nutanix and doing DRaaS because of the hyperconverged nature of the platform. And buying gear and doing this yourself, you still have to buy that gear. You still have to outlay that capital. So we're able to offer them a level of flexibility that would be really, really hard for them to do themselves. And Edge, I think, is the one that is the most interesting in terms of being able to roll this out at scale into multiple locations. Where do we see Edge fitting into this?
I mean, from a workload perspective or, the client profile that's a fit, the number one is manufacturing. These are locations that have to have localized compute. Compute can't sit out of their four walls because it's keeping the plant running. And, we launched Expedient Edge a couple of years ago, and then we revised it to also support Nutanix. And this is a great example of Nutanix's platform play really adding value, because they can have the same experience managing their edge sites as they do their production and their disaster recovery, all from a single platform with very high performance, very rich monitoring, as well as a number of other services on top of it. And importantly for Edge, the cost point is very low. A low cost from us as a monthly expense where clients aren't thinking about a constant CapEx hardware refresh schedule. They're not having to manage multiple contracts. It's just one place to go for all their computing. And Nutanix is really a great fit for edge, and we have some unique licensing capabilities that make it very cost effective for our clients.
And I think that's really the biggest piece is that a lot of these edge sites too, they're not huge. They don't need 10, 20 nodes. They need three, right? They need to be able to run a handful of workloads that are critical to that location. So being able to do that with Nutanix, I think is a huge cost savings. Speaking of clients and what they're doing, what are we hearing from clients about Nutanix? I think this has been kind of a year of, oh no, what do we do now? What are we hearing from clients in that space?
In terms of interest, it's never been higher. Everyone knows the industry changed with VMware being acquired by Broadcom, and anytime there's a change, it creates opportunity, and Nutanix has really seized this. And we are having a lot of, inbound activity from clients and prospects asking about Nutanix because they're interested in it. I think Nutanix has done a great job of painting themselves as a thought leader. And at this point, everyone knows it is a stable platform. And I think that's just going to continue. Their focus on the platform play, their focus on user experience, and their focus on performance and availability are just going to continue to benefit them.
And I think this is with that opportunity comes a lot of people looking at a number of different alternatives. Kind of the board got real open very quickly, right? What about Nutanix? What about hyperscale? What about any of the alternative hypervisors? And I think Nutanix makes a really good play in that space just from that platform level. Is that something that we have heard from clients that this is something that they're really interested in, or this is the biggest one, or are they kind of just in the mix with everyone else?
That is something we're hearing from clients. We did a poll with a large number of participants in it, and I believe the number was somewhere around 60% of the current VMware customers that we talked to indicated that they were looking for alternatives. And within the number of alternatives that they were considering, Nutanix was by far the biggest slice of the pie.
And I think that's a massive, kind of rubber stamp, I guess, on Nutanix in terms of this is what people have seen. They've heard the message. This is something that they're interested in because they have that similar feature set and matches kind of what VMware has been doing. Have we solved problems in that space? Clients who wanted to make that switch but didn't realize that, oh, hey, we actually have to do, how are we going to handle DR? Have we helped clients in that way?
Yeah, we have because Nutanix is not new to us. It's very well known, and we can articulate to clients exactly what that migration path looks like. And more importantly, the client doesn't need to learn anything new to go through that migration because we are handling it for them. The truth is that it's not the most difficult thing in the world, but when IT teams are already burdened with keeping the lights on, it can be uh, a big lift for them. So we've been able to step in and help a number of clients. And for us, it's just like another migration. We do it just as efficiently as we do a VMware to VMware migration. And it really just gives clients confidence and they can focus on their workloads instead of worrying about the platform that they're running on.
So obviously, it's time to get out the crystal ball. It's time to look around. Where do we see Nutanix going in 2025? I know there's a bunch of different directions. Obviously, there's still a lot of things up in the air, but where do you see Nutanix going in 2025?
Uh, I'm going to be a little bit repetitive here and repeat the platform play thing. I think we're going to see them continue investing in that, and it's going to continue to get cleaner, easier to operate with more features. Things like file storage, object storage. Nutanix has products for those, and they are being very woven into the platform itself, where if you need a file server, it's click button, get file server. I also think we're going to continue to see them invest in the partner community. This was VMware's strength for years is that they had a big ecosystem built around them. Largely that ecosystem now plays with Nutanix, and they are also increasing those capabilities across the board for security products, for backup products, for networking products, a number of other things. They're integrating very well. And I think this is very much in their favor to continue doing that. And all indications are that they are going to continue down that path.
Well, I want to thank Anthony for his time today. This has been fantastic. Look forward to seeing you in 2025 and seeing how much of what you just said comes true. And we'll take it to the next segment.
AJ? What are you doing out here?
Oh, my boss said I had to monitor the cloud migration.
In three, two. Welcome back. We have with us now Tom Cooper, who is our AI product lead. Tom, hi, welcome to the program.
Hey, how's it going?
Excellent. As our AI product lead, I'm sure that you're familiar with AI being a very popular topic of discussion this year. Everybody has wanted to talk about it as a thing. Kind of, what are we hearing from the field? What sort of successes and challenges are we hearing from the folks that we've talked to?
Sure. So, the first and foremost, the biggest successes we're seeing are in what Gartner calls enterprise search. So, not only giving people access to AI and helping get, secure AI to all of their employees so they can do the normal kind of chat GPT stuff, but we've really found a lot of benefit in attaching companies' data sets to that same chat client and allowing them to kind of break those silos that exist in today's data connected world where data may exist in 15 different places. We're helping companies bring that into one place and giving actual AI kind of language based search across their documents, and it's been effective in every client that's adapted it.
And when we see that, how are they actually rolling that out to their users? Is this a, individual tool? Is this, public tools that people have seen like Microsoft Copilot and ChatGPT? How are companies actually doing this?
So we give people a branded URL, and companies are growing at different paces and deploying at different paces. So a lot of companies start with their IT staff. They roll out the chat client to their IT staff, very similar to what you would see with ChatGPT Enterprise, but with more models than just the OpenAI models or more than just the Microsoft models. And then some clients are going on a full rollout where they're applying it to everybody within their Active Directory, whether that be AD, whether it be Okta or Auth0.
And how are we doing that? Like, what are the components that we have that are helping to meet some of the challenges that people are running into when they're trying to connect their data and trying to put some guardrails around utilizing AI in their organization?
So a couple of things. First off, the most important thing that we do is solve the data privacy concern by providing access to all of the models that people want to use today. Gemini, Anthropic models, which are Claude, the OpenAI models, but we provide them all within an ecosystem in which we've already vetted the compliance and have been provided attestation that there's no training. They're basically ZDR, which is zero data retention. They are not storing the data in every way. That's the biggest challenge that most companies have seen with adopting kind of generative AI is what happens with my data. And then we've tied that to their existing security model so that implementation is very easy. We're talking, minutes, not weeks.
And that's being done through our secure AI gateway. And kind of walk me through that has the ability to connect into my existing identity structures. And then I have the ability to have these are my groups that I already have that I've already established over time. And how did we see customers utilizing that role-based access control?
So very simply, what we did is we integrate with, we'll use Azure AD as an example. We integrate as a SPA or just an application within the authentication ecosystem. So they come in just like a standard OAuth. They create us a application. They assign the groups that they want to have access, and then they set the login URL. So it's all a very easy step. Probably takes half an hour to set up, and then from that point going forward, they have full control within their Azure AD, whether or not they want to add somebody to a specific group for models, maybe in an executive group, or maybe you have an HR group that only gets HIPAA compliant models. Either way, they can freely move back and forth, and they don't need to reach out into our software or have a separate authentication mechanism to do that.
And they have the ability to say, okay, this group, it's my HR group, they have access to just the HR data. And then it prevents other people from having access to that, so that you're not presenting data, you're not making data leak through an AI platform just because there's not really the great controls there too, right?
Yeah, so everything I was talking about was on chat, but you're dead on. We built the chat system to be able to integrate with data and security as a first-class citizen. So if you're, let's say, using again Azure AD, and you have everybody's home drives in SharePoint, and you connect your SharePoint into our data system, not only do we secure that data, not only do we vectorize it and chunk it and do all the things you're supposed to do to convert it to AI, we carry down all of those permissions. So whatever the user had access to through your AD, through their current role base, their RBAC, that's exactly what they'll have access to in their data structures when they link their data.
And I think that's really, really helpful, because a lot of times when people want to go take on new technologies, they feel like they have to completely redo or relearn the security model. And being able to take that on in a simplified way where it's just done, right? It's already there. They don't have to, fight about it. What are we hearing from clients when they see what we do with our AI tooling?
I mean, so there's first, generally clients are just overwhelmed with the amount of kind of narrowcast tools that exist in the wild right now, because everybody has an AI tool. So really what we see is when we get somebody to start implementing our solution, the first thing we get honestly is that's easy. And then
If some large company decided, I don't know, make an entire campaign out of that was easy, they would probably be pretty successful with it, I guess you would say.
for sure. And look, there are competitors that are easy as well. We are not the solo company with an easy button. But the difference with us is, when you start looking at what AI is good for, which is solving individual problems, the models that are designed today, and it's not all just ChatGPT. There are 10, 20, 30 models, each with a really strong suit. Well, use Anthropic, Claude. That's a developer's model, creative writing in developers. It is light years ahead of ChatGPT 4.0 and being able to do the task. Well, when you start looking at a company needing 10 different AI models for 10 different tasks, that's monumental across the board to kind of policy and implement. So while you may be able to, let's say, grab Copilot and just flick a button and turn on Copilot for a few people, that case does not exist for your entire organization as you start bootstrapping other models in where needed. And that's the real benefit of taking somebody like us who provides you access to all models through one interface, through one integration, one security layer, one data privacy layer, kind of limits all of that problem that you would have with implementation externally.
So looking forward to 2025, and I know that I am asking you probably one of the hardest questions, right? Just because I think we're still in the launch phase of AI, right? It is really taking off starting at the end of 2023 and really taking off through 24. Where do we see it going in 2025? I think this is, I think what a lot of people are looking for is like, okay, we kind of have an idea of what it is now and what it's possible to do, but where do we see it going in 2025?
Well, first, I don't think it's robots. And I
Okay,
don't
that's good
think
news.
that it's AGI, right? I don't think it's general intelligence. Really, there are two important things to think about that are going to happen as we go to 2025 and beyond. The first and foremost is the models right now, the more parameters they have, which when you see these numbers like, oh, 405 billion parameters, that really is the intent for the amount of education you could say that model has. So current large models in the 400 million mark and 400 billion mark are all able to kind of speak at a graduate level, right? College level about specific topics. So the first thing that's naturally going to happen in 2025 is we're going to see the rollout of the next version of these models, which are going to be in the trillions of parameters. And the expectation is that they're going to talk as, PhD level, graduate level. So we're really looking forward to what happens when AI can move and start speaking at an even deeper level and understanding of how to solve a problem from data that it's contextualizing. So that's going to happen, regardless. The second big thing, and I think it's probably most important to our audience, it's most important to companies across America, is that the mechanism for attaching data today is called RAG, which is retrieval augmented generation. All that really means is you take the data, you vectorize the data, you turn it to the same math that they turn the data to that they train the models on, and then you make that math available to the AI so that you can do basically what's called a semantic search. I can do a natural language search on that data. Today, this is amazing because we never had anything like this before, but as you move forward and put more and more data in, now there's going to be more and more chances for it to find different data sources that have a different context to them. And that's going to lead to something called agentic RAG. So rather than just RAG, it is an agent in front of RAG, agentic RAG. And really, I'm excited about the potentials of basically taking RAG and honing that in to be something that has even more business knowledge to your business for finding the right data. So, your business may have a certain data location, a certain subset of data that's really important for a type of question. Let's say solving a ticket, right? So that you would have agentic RAG be able to look through all of your data sources, but first it would try to solve your problem in your past tickets. Second, it would try to solve the problem in your playbooks or your user guides, and then it would go to the greater source. And this is really it's in its infancy right now, but I really expect an explosion in this technology in 2025.
Yeah, and I think that's the sort of actually solving a use case and really connecting in the data, right? I think a lot of times when we hear people talk about generative AI, they're really talking about like, can I make an email sound nice? And those are really great tools. But when you start to really say, okay, this is where I know my ticket data is, and I'm trying to solve a ticket, start with this set of data first and not try to literally boil the ocean of all the things I think that's really where you start to see, for lack of a better word, magic happen of, oh, we can do that now. Oh, it'll just look off of our data. That's amazing. And really start to see the business cases hit there.
We actually saw this internally in a real use case. So, when we're looking for information on our AI program, right? So you can go in, you can type a search for give me information on our AI program or give me the sell sheet on our AI program. AI doesn't know that sell sheet means something specific to our organization. It knows what a sell sheet is, but when it looks through all of our documents, is our one pager have more information? The one page sell sheet, does that have more information on our AI product, or does a 10-page PowerPoint on AI have more data, right? So naturally, the AI, when it's searching, is going to find the contextual relevancy inside of that PowerPoint and say, hey, this is a bigger document. It's got more information. Let me give that to you. I see a world where agentic RAG would be like, if you said the word sell sheet, let's first look at our one pagers and see if we have a solid answer in the one pagers. And how that mechanism develops, how it ends up kind of growing to be a tool that people can use is still to be seen. This is something in its infancy right now, but I really think this is going to be the key to having some really exciting data problems solved in 2025.
And that sounds truly amazing. I want to thank Tom for joining me today. And with that, I'm going to head over to go talk to one of Tom's compatriots, Brad Reynolds, about hyperscale.
A recent stat from Bain said 85% of organizations have plans to invest in AI in the future. Only 15% know what they want to do. Seems like a really big gap, right?
As we look at that gap between 15% and 85%, we want to help companies move towards the goal of being able to invest in AI.
So how do you turn your organization from someone who's interested in AI to someone who's ready to invest in AI?
We sit down with and your stakeholders to figure out what are the use cases you're trying to solve. Trying to assign AI or trying to apply AI across your organization doesn't work.
We want to make sure that we find the things that are easiest to deliver with the most impact and stack rank those two against each other so that you end up with a tremendous amount of ROI, but also a lot of small wins right away.
In 3, 2. And we're back now with Brad Reynolds, our Chief Strategy Officer. Brad, welcome to the program.
Thanks, AJ. Glad to be here.
I think the big thing that we have seen this year is a lot of reinvestigation of cloud strategies, right? It continues to be a challenge for everyone. So what kind of changes have we seen from clients and customers this year in regards to their cloud transitions and their cloud strategies?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple areas to focus on here. So one area to focus is the people that have like virtualization workloads as part of their cloud strategy. So there's a huge announcement this year in terms of pricing changes with Broadcom VMware. And so that caused a lot of clients to start looking at how are we deploying to cloud and what are our options? So the options being containerization, hyperscaler, alternative hypervisor type situations, or direct colo. And so it basically shook the snow globe and made people think about what are my options and where do I want my steady state to be long term. So that's one kind of aspect of what people are thinking about with cloud. The other big macroeconomic driver is the notion of not necessarily that we're overspending on hyperscale, which is what a lot of people call cloud, is the hyperscale provider. But like, I don't even know whether I'm overspending on hyperscale. Can you help me understand what the right distributions of workloads is going to be? Because I know that my bill is large, but I don't know if I'm in the right place. And not only do I not know if I'm in the right place, what's my operational FinOps process over time to kind of evaluate, am I continually optimized and in the right spot for my workloads over time? So those are kind of two drivers that are causing cloud or cloud transformation to be a real deep part of the dialogue with our clients now.
And when it comes to that adoption and rollout, are clients actually and customers actually being successful in their actual migrations, or are they kind of getting to a point and just getting kind of stuck and they're trying to power through it now?
Yeah, the difficulty is that there's a dream of cloud, which is the dream is, hey, I can essentially outsource the complexity of IT operations to a third party, but actually moving from, we'll call it the gravity around where workloads currently are to that end state is a lot more operationally difficult, especially if you don't have a large IT staff to deal with it. So what you're seeing is that there's a movement, but like the actual percentage of workloads that sit in the cloud is a lot lower in terms of percentage than maybe many CIOs would want it to be. So it's like, where's the helping hand to help me get to that vision of outsourcing IT complexity to a third party? And so there's a lot of kind of like, hey, how do we get fully in the cloud is really the question mark that they believe in it. It's a good destination, but they're kind of getting stuck midway in the journey.
And I think we've helped along that journey with our enterprise cloud, our private cloud offerings, and our edge offerings to try and provide that cloud operational model in more traditional technology stacks. But what are clients specifically asking for now?
Yeah, so they want to make sure that they have that kind of cloud operating model, but they're doing it in as efficient a way as possible on a very simplistic level from just a finance perspective. So the future of cloud is going to be in a hybrid type environment. So what we mean by hybrid is you're going to want to use the right cloud for the right workload at the right cost. And why that's important is that this notion of cloud is not a single destination. It's actually multiple destinations. All of those destinations, though, can help you outsource the complexity of IT. So where that workload lands, you need somebody to help you with that. And so The traditional thought of what moving to cloud is, which is moving to hyperscale cloud, is okay, let's go lift and shift all the stuff that we have into Azure or AWS. Well, Azure and AWS aren't necessarily the right place for all your workloads, but that was kind of the destination. The problem that is uncovered is that, well, now all of that works on you to figure it out. And regardless of the tooling capabilities or whatever that a hyperscaler might have, you still have to staff all of that capability inside of your organization. And that assumes that you move to one cloud. If you start saying, hey, well, AWS is great at this, private cloud is great at that, Azure is great at these particular workloads, do you, as an organization, a CIO, have the people on staff that understand the idiosyncrasies and complexities of each of those IT stacks? So the desire is, I want to use the best of breed, but I don't know how to manage it. And so that's kind of where people are getting stuck right now. And for the folks that have moved fully to a hyperscale, they're getting stuck on, we're spending millions of dollars a year on this. Are we balanced and optimized right for kind of what we're trying to do with cloud?
And is that cost actually associated correctly with the usage and value that we're getting out of it? How are we helping to close that loop in terms of getting people to that hybrid state?
Yeah, so if you're looking at hybrid from a CIO perspective, while that may be financially advantageous, there's the question is like, hey, have I just taken on another complex workload? So now I have to manage 3 cloud providers. That's difficult. So Expedient has product sets that kind of cover all of the particular areas of cloud, from private cloud to edge cloud to hyperscale cloud, which is what we've added in 2024. But from a client perspective, the important part is we simplify cloud. So instead of having to manage that hybrid stack yourself, Expedient will manage it for you. So if you use the tagline cloud simple or cloud simplified, that's what you're buying from us, is we will make sure that the right workload is in the right place, cost optimized, and on a recurring basis, semi-annually, quarterly, annually, we can rebalance those workloads for you so that as a CIO, you have confidence that I am optimized at all times. So having a single source that can cover you from edge to hyperscale is what Expedient can offer. And that's a very unique position in the market. And what we're selling is not so much cloud, it's cloud simplicity. And that is really resonating with our clients.
And I think the big thing is, let's not just go try to slam it into one particular model. Let's go build the proper solution that actually simplifies it for your organization, not just at we're going to monitor how much you're spending and try to optimize your spending, but also how do we actually help you operationalize everything across the board? Because that can also be one of the harder parts for a lot of staffs. And I think the other part that we're seeing is we're starting to move into 2025. We already talked earlier in this program about what happened with Broadcom. Where do we see things going in 2025 in terms of the growth into cloud models? Do we see that making a dent, or are there anything that you're seeing in your crystal ball around what's happening with cloud in 2025?
Yeah, so let's just take a look at macroeconomic trends. IT complexity of stack going up substantially. IT skill sets inside of an organization decreasing over time as IT budget or team sizes shrink, but also that complexity part goes up so that you don't necessarily have the coverage for all of the pieces. And kind of the third aspect, which has been a cloud driver over time, is the desire not to be dealing with hardware and to essentially outsource the kind of complexity of that. So you're just talking about workload. So all 3 of those dynamics are going to continue in their trends. So complexity will continue to go up. Skill sets inside of the organization will continue to go down relative to workload size, and the desire to get out of the physical hardware business. So all 3 of those things are happening together, and the desire to move to cloud is driven by all 3 of them. So, but the important thing with cloud, like where the conversation is changing, is that one cloud or one service provider on the underlying infrastructure is not the right solution for every workload. But the reason why people haven't been able to solve that in the past is because adding different technology providers increases the complexity of your solution. And so what we had to solve for at Expedient is, can we simplify that for our clients so that they have one provider to talk to that can span from edge to hyperscale? And over time, as business needs change, you're going to find that those workloads will rebalance. It might be, hey, a lot of stuff has to happen in AWS this year. Great, we'll rebalance a bunch of workloads to AWS. But once those workloads go into steady state where they're very predictable, in 2026, you might decide, hey, it's time to rebalance those back into private cloud because we really understand what this new product that we were launching in 2025 is. So that optionality is kind of the key word. So whether the optionality is around hypervisors or edge capabilities or hyperscale, you have the option to use the right cloud for the right workload. And that capability is relatively novel. And so that's where we see our clients going in 2025 is, let's make sure our workloads are in the right place for what we're trying to accomplish. And there are reasons why edge is great. There are reasons why private cloud is great. And there are reasons why hyperscale is great. But let us help you figure out where the right place is, and then we'll implement it for you.
And if you want to learn more, you can join me next month in January of 2025 to learn more about our hyperscale offering. Brad, I want to thank you for your time. This has been really, really helpful. I'm sure we'll see more of Brad next year in 2025 as well. And with that, we'll go to the Q&A section. Hello, everyone. We're going to go to our question and answer time, and we'll go to our first question here. Are you starting to see use cases for on-prem AI? I think the answer to that is absolutely yes. Manufacturing in particular has been doing this for quite some time with things like machine learning and cameras that are pointed at, say, a bottling line or using it for quality control. We're seeing this being used there, and a lot of that on-prem requirement is the same as anything else that we see for our edge infrastructure, where that can't go out to the internet because these facilities are located in places with bad internet connectivity. So I would say yes, there is definitely a case for on-prem AI. If you don't have that, or your organization has moved into a lot of SaaS services, on-prem AI doesn't really do anything other than move data around quite a bit. So I would say that for the vast majority of those cases, I would say no, on-prem AI doesn't really work there, but there's definitely use cases for it. The second question here is, how does Expedient AI stack up against Copilot or OpenAI's offerings? We stack up very, very well. In particular, the ability to use more than just one particular set of models. Obviously, OpenAI has GPT-4, they have GPT-4o, 401. There's a number of different models that they have that are truly the best in the industry, but it's just theirs. If you want to use Anthropic with Claude, or you want to use Gemini, you don't have access to those through OpenAI's offerings. Same with Copilot. Copilot is very much focused on the OpenAI models and some Microsoft image generation ones. But if you want to use other models because you think they're better, or they are specifically built for things like coding, like Tom mentioned with Claude, being able to access those models in a consistent manner is really, really important. That's where our offering really stands apart. But also the ability to connect into, with native connectors into those data sources like Confluence, Jira, Office 365, Google Suite, Slack, Salesforce. It's really hard to do that with things like Copilot. Copilot does a great job with Office 365 and not much else. OpenAI doesn't really have any of those offerings. And not only do those offerings lack those abilities, they also lack the sort of enterprise controls that we have really focused on. Things like monitoring and observability of who's sending out a request, what is in that response, did they send out any PII, and how much are they being used? So I know that this one user has done a lot and they're spending a lot of tokens on, various requests that they're doing, but this one isn't. Is that because they don't like using it or they're not getting value out of it? It allows you to see those things, but it also allows you to have some controls. One of the big things that I think we're going to see in 2025 is, hey, how does the compliance regime focus on AI and these tools? Because right now we're kind of in that space where people are just kind of rolling it out and seeing what they can do with it. But then it's going to start to touch that compliant data. And how do you make sure that those requests are being used correctly and that that data isn't being put into places where it shouldn't be? Third question here. What are you hearing around cloud repatriation? This has been an interesting one because I think some of the things that we're hearing around cloud repatriation are overblown. And I think some of them are very real. The big thing that we're seeing is people realizing that whole right cloud for the right workload, and they're really taking it to heart. And they put everything into Azure or into AWS and they say, hey, this actually doesn't really fit here. We're spending a lot of money to do that out here. What if we did it back on prem again? Because that's actually a better fit for this application, or moving it into not necessarily Azure, but into a cloud provider like Expedient. Can I bring those workloads down, still get that same operating model without having to pay for the full hyperscale cloud costs? I think that's really what we're seeing. But what cloud repatriation is a sort of next step in the swinging of the pendulum of, okay, everybody went all the way in on cloud first. Might have been a little bit of a bad idea. Let's swing it back a little bit. And so part of that is the repatriation and being able to assign those workloads and understand where they need to be and how we're going to move them forward. I think that's a big one going into 2025. The next question here is, what are the top 3 solutions our customers were acquiring from us this year, and what are the use cases aligned to them? The big one that we saw a massive jump in is Nutanix. We rolled out Nutanix Private Cloud. It has seen a massive launch, and we're very, very proud of what we've done. The big thing there is, as clients were moving from VMware over to Nutanix, needing a DR platform. By offering Nutanix DR as a service, that allowed them to have that second site dedicated cluster without having to go through all the management of it. There was also Edge, where we had clients who wanted to put Edge in their data centers, and their remote locations did not require multiple 16-core servers. And because of that, the licensing costs from somebody like Broadcom really took a toll. Being able to put that with Edge and being able to go down to a per VM level was massive for them. But I think the other one that we've seen a lot of this year is backups. Data protection has become a bigger part of the disaster recovery story. It's not just where can I fail over to, but how far back can I fail over? So data protection became a big one, where we saw a lot of customers want to have data protection on site, along with data protection inside of our data centers, with the ability to replicate those things over and use that as part of their DR strategy. So it became a big pickup for us this year in terms of clients who wanted to actually go solve their DR problems and not just tick the box. And the final question we have here, unless we get anything else before we head out today, is what technologies or skills will be most valuable in 2025? I think the biggest one is going to be the continued ability to learn. Nothing in this industry is stagnant. Nothing in this industry is particularly ever going to stay the same. We see a lot of things where things get bolted on or things get added on. But for the most part, you're going to have to constantly learn new things. Be comfortable with learning new things. Be comfortable with also being able to let people help you. I think a lot of times we get sort of spun around the axle on, this thing is mine. I built this. I don't want to let it go. And when you do that, you have a inability to see the bigger picture. And that's really where I think in 2025, letting help happen. This is a big, big thing that we see across the industry of, people who want to do things themselves, and they think the way that they're doing it themselves is the best way to do it. And because they're not open to other options, they may leave things on the table. So I think that's a big one. Obviously, AI is going to be massive. Hyperscale cloud is going to be massive. So I think there's a number of different technology things going into 2025 to keep an eye on. But I think the biggest thing is going to be from a personal level and from a human level, just be willing to learn, be open, and keep your eye out and be willing to change yourself in order to match what's going forward into the future. And speaking of the future, I want to invite all of you to have a wonderful happy holidays and join us in January to learn more about our hyperscale control offering. We're going to talk about how we're helping solve cloud, regardless of where that is. You're not going to want to miss that. And with that, I will bid you adieu. I hope you had a wonderful 2024, and we look forward to seeing you again in 2025. Thanks, everybody.